Hi everyone, it's QuickyBaby and welcome back to World of Tanks, and today we've got the pleasure of watching Miles 131 playing in the ever faithful TOG. Now this replay is actually from several years ago in 2021. However, one of the interesting things about this replay is that Miles has decided to not use a turbo on the TOG. And this is even though Equipment 2.0 came out nearly a year before. And this is just so weird to see a TOG actually going like the TOG used to. This is what the top speed limit of the TOG would be before 2020, when Equipment 2.0 went into the game in August, and it revolutionized the way that you could play a tank like this, because the TOG was limited at 13 kilometers an hour or 14 kilometers an hour, and the turbo amped that up to either 18 if you use a regular turbo, 19 if you use a bounty turbo. Was he telling him to fall back there? I mean, he'd probably spend like most of the game actually being able to get around the Leopard, but I digress. You'd have 19 with a bounty turbo, and you'd have a whopping 20 with a Bond turbo. And I think I put a Bond turbo on my TOG because it's like one of the slowest tanks in the game. So in theory, putting a Bond turbo on the slowest tank in the game gives the most. I'd rather put it on STRV 103B or maybe something that you're going to play, but when we think about what tanks are actually perfect for your Bond turbos, the TOG is one of them because it can't even get a mobility slot. So yeah, it's so ridiculous to see this TOG driving along, limited at this 14 kilometers an hour from Miles. And now in the game, just last month we got, or this month was it, that we got the update that 1.26 gave a whole new crew skill that also increases top speed, Engineer. Where if it's flat and then you don't use a premium consumable, vents, bloody blah, you're going to be limited to an extra 1 kilometer an hour faster forwards and backwards. But as soon as you factor in stuff like Commander skill and using in a premium consumable, so weird to think that premium consumable actually makes you have a better top speed limit in World of Tanks now if you have the Engineer skill. Then you can go more like 1.3 or 1.4 kilometers an hour faster forwards and backwards, and that is significant because if you add that in to a Bond turbo, the TOG literally can go at 21 kilometers an hour, over 21 kilometers an hour, which is literally 50% more speed purely from using the right build and the right equipment, or should I say the very expensive equipment on the TOG. And so this is what's crazy about this game now, is that if you set up your vehicle in a way that only whales can afford, you could literally just be like 50% better. Although, to be fair, I don't think it's fair to say that a regular player couldn't use a regular turbo on a TOG, or a regular player couldn't access Engineer as one of their driver skills on the TOG, which is probably the first skill I'd go for on this tank after you've got yourself Brothers in Arms, and possibly even before. Now that Engineer might actually be better than having Brothers in Arms on your driver, considering how many crew are inside the TOG, which is 6. So you'd be losing a little bit of crew skill, a fifth of your crew skill, but it's less than 1% crew skill. So whether going 1 kilometer an hour faster forwards and backwards is going to be better than that, it's kind of the good thing about Equipment 2.0, and the good thing about Crew 2.0 is that you do actually you have to make these decisions, and the decisions that you make, in a way, they customize your play style. But I don't know, now that I've had Crew 2.0 for a week, I'm pretty much just picking mostly the same crew skills, give or take. If a tank's got really good dispersion values or really bad accuracy, I might try and focus on one of those two. Or if a vehicle has... it's basically just class differences. I still feel like I'll take every single commander skill on every single tank that isn't a self-propelled gun. Or should I say, when I say take everyone, you can't take everyone, you're only going to take 6 now. What I'm trying to say is that I'll take the same on pretty much every one of my heavies, every one of my mediums. But that's something that Wargaming can adjust and adapt, right? If they feel that the amount of crew skills that people are using are just so similar, then they might buff or nerf some of them, adapt the crew skills. But that could be very tricky with buffing and nerfing crew skills if Wargaming do plan on not giving us free resets again, right? Yeah, we'll have to see how that goes. So our hero today, Miles 131, is showing you exactly what the TOG is meant to do, and that is reverse side scrape. It's weird, but a tank where the turret is so far at the front actually does very well when it gets to reverse side scrape. Down here now, the whole of the side of the TOG will be a ricochet as it's 76 millimeters thick. And considering that you can still go backwards at 7 kilometers an hour, it's not the slowest thing, then excellent TOG players like Miles here will use their vehicle to not exposed so much of their weak frontal hull armor. And you'll be surprised the amount of people who get baited, as we can see here, into shooting this side armor, but really they could just go through the turret because the turret of the TOG is like 114, so good luck trying to block much with the turret, especially considering how flat it is. You could always use that 10 degrees of gun depression, but even with 10 degrees of gun depression, that flat turret still isn't getting any better. Really, well, a little bit, but not like that much better. So this is kind of like the dream scenario for the TOG in a way. We've seen Miles pretty much drive about all of 200 meters in the first 5 minutes of this battle. And I guess Miles's plan is TOG just remains and outlasts. And boy, does it outlast. This is 1,720 hit points on the TOG. So clearly Miles is using a durability device, as the base hit points of the TOG is 1,560. Why they wouldn't have taken a turbo is beyond me, though. Maybe they focus on like gunram events, durability. Whoa. Miles, I know this replay was from 3 years ago, but if you are still playing, please put a turbo on the TOG. You're an excellent TOG player. You know exactly what you're doing with it. But boy, mate, you are absolutely trolling if you're not putting a turbo on the TOG. This thing just instantly becomes miles better. So, what do you notice about the enemy team? The eagle-eyed of you out there will see that there are not one but two mortal nemesis. Can nemesis be plural? Nemesis like your biggest enemy, right? Nemesis. There are two mortal nemesis on the enemy team, and they are the KV-2s. Those vehicles with the 152mm guns can do huge amounts of damage to the TOG. They love to put 700 ALF damage with their gold, and they can even penetrate their HE rounds for over 900 on the TOG. So you can see that Miles really doesn't want to poke. This is kind of like a battle of... Oh, actually Miles does go around the corner as the KV-2 was aiming at the Super Chaff. He shuts them down. Miles aims poorly for the first shot, follows it up with a good gold round through the upper hull of the KV-2. And will they finish them off? Yes, they will. KV-2 fires. That means the KV-2's probably got about a 15-second reload now, and the TOG can get in multiple shells in that time. So Miles is going to race forwards. Oh my word, this is so slow. Is this how some people actually played World of Tanks back in the day? But luckily, the KV-2 comes around the corner too early, and TOG shuts them down. And now Miles has to deal with an Excelsior on the enemy team. That's a dangerous tank. But this just becomes the worst kind of like slap fight of all time. But luckily, it looks like this Excelsior hasn't found the 2 key, and Miles definitely has, as they're butchering the front of the Tier 5 American heavy tank. It's not an American heavy tank, it's a British heavy tank, you silly sausage. And luckily, with Miles finishing off the Excelsior, he's now in a 2 versus 5 with the Panesha playing in an M44. There's also a Leffe on the enemy team in an M44, but luckily these huge hills, the mountains that we have here with the fort on top, or is this the Great Wall of China, meant to be going across on the Empire's border map, is protecting Miles from the artillery. So this little alcove here should allow them to be protected from the west and also from the north. But unfortunately, with the T-34 finishing off the M44, that now means that our hero Miles, 131, finds themselves in a 1 versus 5 situation, contesting the Kolabanov's medal. But with 6 minutes left on this game, is Miles actually going to be able to get towards the enemy base, even if they deal with the Panzer IV? Great shot there. And this is where you cower from TOG. You might do 100 damage, but that's why the TOG still has 1,000 hit points. It's so weird to see how different the bars can be in World of Tanks when one team has multiple TOGs. Just the sheer hit points difference. Miles doing happy face. We can see the Panesha saying GG TOG in the chat. Miles very happy that the artillery are commending the TOG. And now Miles is on 6 kills with 3 vehicles left on the enemy team, including a T-52 who hasn't been spotted. So alarm bells should be ringing for Miles in this situation. Oh, look at this. The Panesha says, I do my best for helping you. You did. You did, the Panesha. Good job. Oh, look at this. Miles even says you did well. And he did do well, Miles. The other thing that might be tricky, or that you might not be able to do well here, is actually get to the enemy base in time. 13 kilometers an hour. World of Tanks maps are like a kilometer big. Not all of them, but most of them. So Miles roughly has to drive about 700 meters and then probably another 700 meters. So he's got to drive like, about 1.4 kilometers. And if he goes 14 kilometers an hour, let's think about it. He's going 14 kilometers an hour. He does 7.5 an hour. 14 kilometers an hour. So he's roughly every minute doing a quarter of a mile, right? Oh, but we've got to change it into kilometers. Oh, no, it's not miles now. It's kilometers now. What are you talking about? Oh, my gosh, I'm confusing the British and the European and American systems here. Anyway, 14 kilometers an hour, meaning that he roughly goes a kilometer every 4 minutes. So with 4 minutes left, yeah, he's not going to make it. Quick maths here on my YouTube video. He literally could be driving the whole way and won't make it. So his play now has to be to protect the base. So Miles, still firing gold rounds, would like to see you switch to AP or even HE here. Just decides to sit and tank the M44. The M44 misses, and that means that Miles can finish off. And in this kind of a situation, Miles is doing the right thing by not even trying to leave a base. As we see the Panesha. Yes, defend. Good. Oh, I love it. The M44, who's now in a platoon with Miles, up to 9 kills between them. That's unfortunately, even if Miles gets 2 more kills, unless they invite Derek there playing in their P43 to the platoon, there's definitely not going to be a chance for a crucial contribution medal for 12 kills plus. But Miles, seemingly frustrated that none of the enemy tanks seemingly are appearing for him, thinks about going out. Miles clearly spots that the T-50 is AFK, and Miles, having obviously quicker maths than me, says, I can't get to their cap in time. And the Panesha says, sure, but don't risk. Oh, the Panesha. What are you talking about, don't risk? Oh my lord, left A behind. That's the last of Miles's gold rounds as he literally just reverses out of left A. That was an unnecessary ammo rack, but probably one of the most brave left A's that I've ever seen. So in this kind of situation, what is the play, boys and girls? What is the play? Well, clearly the play isn't to just drive down an alleyway, I think. If you drive down an alleyway, I think there's more chance that the enemy will try to sneak into the cap circle, hoping that the TOG is left base. So I think what you'd probably want to do is hide, maybe wait for the enemies to commit to the cap circle, and then see if you can then catch them unaware. Because remember, if you're going to have to shoot that T-52 multiple times. They've got 650 hit points. You're going to have to hit them 5 times with the TOG with its 150 alpha. And so accordingly, you have to give yourself enough time to fire 5 shots. That's going to be pretty much at least 20 seconds of continuous fire in the TOG. And do you think the T-52 is just going to sit there and take it? Maybe. Maybe some T-52s would just sit there and take it. But unless you're confident in yourself to be able to hit the tracks a couple of times to lock them in place, which would be a valid tactic, it could end up being a bit tricky. So we've got 2 minutes left on this game, and honestly, I don't know how I played the TOG for all of those years. I think the TOG has been in the game since roughly about I don't know when it first went in, 2014, 2015? I was definitely playing with Jingles. So it was probably more like 2013 or 2014, I'd say. We had great fun in our TOGs. They're just fabulous platoon tanks because you can stack their hit points together, right? You can end up having something like nearly 6,000, well, not quite, but more like 5,500 hit points in a platoon together, which is absolutely outrageous. The amount of times that me and Jingles and Ike took our TOGs out and ended up giggling. If any of you remember one of my earliest YouTube videos for our Twitch highlight, it was when we made a slide of TOGs to actually get down the hill on Himmelsdorf, and it worked. We lost a few hit points. We might have lost a few TOGs, but it definitely worked. Okay, so now with a minute left on the game, the siren signs again, and now tick-tock, tick-tock. Miles is just hoping that the T-52 appears. And literally, look, they've been driving for like the last couple of minutes, and all they've got is from here to here. I can't believe I played for so long with the TOG at this kind of a speed. And now, I haven't actually played the TOG in 1.26 update, but I will be playing the TOG today. And that's because, ladies and gents, boys and girls, I have a big treat for all of you. And that is, I have a rental code for the North American server, which will give everyone 10 rentals for the TOG. Because I'm going to be streaming at TwitchCon, and it's going to give you an opportunity to be able to play the TOG with me if you're an NA player. So, wow, let's just take a look at all these lovely words. Look, M44, no time, but you made best good play. Miles replies, happy face, thanks. The Panesha says you welcome. And the Nashorn says something that I don't understand. Says turbo. Turbo! Yes! The Nashorn! The first thing they say, I believe. Oh no, they did say something earlier, super. But they say turbo, didn't take the turbo. So unfortunately, clearly, the T-52 was AFK and that's it. No collar panels medal for Miles. Wait, what? Okay, I've never seen this before. Look on the right-hand side of your screen. The T-52 was lost in battle? And the top of the screen? Victory? I have never seen this in 100,000 battles of World of Tanks. There was one player left on the enemy team. They were AFK, and I didn't even know this was a mechanic. If the last player was AFK, but they've also left the battle through using their escape key, then it looks like Wargaming destroys the tank before the end of the battle, and it results in a victory. So not only does Miles take down a huge win here for the TOG, one of the highest experience games of all time in the TOG, they also get the one that everybody wants, the Kolobanos medal for standing alone against at least 5 opponents. And as we can see, the T-52 on the enemy team got 0 experience for that game, clearly showing that they traveled a whopping 170 meters and then decided to leave the battle. And let that be a warning to all of you that if you do lead the battle too many times, not only will your account be penalized, possibly with suspension or a ban, you also don't get any experience and your tank gets blown up, so you have to pay the full repair cost. But oh my word, ladies and gents, this was just the perfect TOG game. So old school World of Tanks. Kind of Miles was being a little bit stupid by not using the turbo, but I'll give them a pass on this one. But look, a whole platoon of KV2s on the enemy team who ended up 1st, 3rd and 4th on experience were not enough to stop the mighty Miles and their mighty TOG from taking down this battle. And the only thing I didn't like is that Miles spammed a lot of gold rounds even without a premium account here, meaning they lost credits when they could have easily profited in a matchup like this. Nevertheless, when you get a Radley Walters medal for securing 8 kills, a Pascucci's medal for dealing with the self-propelled guns, which is oh so satisfying in a TOG, and even a Steel War medal, more for just like tanking and taking the hits rather than actually blocking them, and a high caliber as well for 3,600 damage. Done. That's a good result. And also a big shout out to the Panesha as well, playing in their M44, who was just such a lovely spirited individual to play with. Miles's description of this replay was bring it on when most of the team goes one way but still loses. Oh gosh, don't put 2 O's in loses. It up to TOG, hold the line. Nice little surprise at the end, happy face. And also he says shout out to the Panesha in the M44 and Derek 2003 in the P43 for critical help. Miles, you are a lovely lad or lady. You're just a lovely person. Whoever you are, Miles, you're just what the gaming world needs. People who are willing to play the long and strong TOG, and people who are willing to give respect to players who deserve it. And Miles, you deserve respect for not only that attitude, but also your great gameplay in the TOG. And I was so thrilled to see for the very first time in any game that I've seen that you can actually win if even when the siren goes off, if the player has physically left the battle and wasn't just AFK. So Miles, thank you so much for uploading your replay, albeit over 3 years ago to the What Replays website. I loved this game and that's why I wanted to dig it up from the crypts to feature it today. And I hope all of you enjoyed this video. If you did, give a thumbs up. If you hated it, give a thumbs down. And if you're watching this video as it goes live on Saturday, not only am I going to be revealing a code live on stream that gives you a rental for 10 games in the TOG only on the NA server, and then playing with the community. Also, you can all come along to the second day of my TwitchCon stream, where you can get yourself some reserves, a guaranteed day of premium after watching for a couple of hours, and then if you watch for 3 hours today, you could get yourself an additional day of premium, 2D styles, 3D styles, 3 days of premium, or possibly even a Vipera. But let me clarify, those are mystery drops. You only get one of them, and you have to be very lucky to be able to get the Vipera. Nevertheless, really looking forward to playing with the whole of the NA server today in TOGS. Let's see if we can get, hopefully, at least 20, maybe 25, or even possibly the dream 30 TOGS in a single game of World of Tanks. So really looking forward to seeing you all live right now on twitch.tv/QuickyBaby. And as always, thank you so much for watching. You've been epic, and hopefully I'll see you soon.